Hello, everyone, and good morning. So as people are joining us, I just wanted to extend a warm welcome and on behalf of our center. Next slide, please. So again, welcome and good morning. Welcome to the Introduction to Classroom Wellbeing, Information and Strategies for Educators and Cultural Inclusiveness and Equity, WISE. It's known as the acronym WISE. This webinar is sponsored by the Northeastern Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC. We're housed at Rutgers School of Health Professions in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. My name is Kathy Rivera, and I'm the project coordinator here, and I'll be introducing the webinar today as well as our speaker. The MHTTC is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to enhance the capacity of the behavioral health workforce to deliver evidence-based and promising practices to individuals with mental health conditions. We also address the full continuum of services spanning mental illness prevention, treatment, and recovery supports. We also provide training-related workforces such as police, first responders, primary care providers, and vocational services to provide effective services to people with mental health conditions. We also utilize supplemental funding to support school teachers and staff to address student mental health. Next slide, please. The MHTTC provides training and technical assistance focused on evidence-based practices for people with serious mental health conditions, including illness management and recovery, supportive housing, supported employment, and supported education. We also address comprehensive school-based mental health services and supports, wellness and recovery for people with mental health conditions and for providers, mental health and recovery among Hispanic, Latinx, and Latinx populations, and online self-paced education courses covering some of these topics. Next slide, please. Just a reminder, our center offers a wide array of training programs, products, and services that are available to you at no cost. Next slide, please. And if you'd like to keep up to date with all of our activities, please sign up to receive our electronic mailings. You can sign up by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen. I'll pause a moment in case you'd like to pull out your phone and scan the code. Next slide, please. Following this webinar, you'll be asked to complete a brief survey. We value this feedback and use it to improve our activities and inform future activities. The surveys are also important because our continued funding is linked to the completion of these surveys. So we thank you in advance for your participation. We also want you to know that this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website within 7 days of this broadcast. Next slide, please. Please note that this presentation was prepared for the Northeastern Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center under a cooperative agreement from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. At the time of this presentation, Dr. Miriam Delphin-Rittman served as Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use at SAMHSA. The opinions expressed herein are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services, or SAMHSA. No official support or endorsement of DHHS or SAMHSA for the opinions described in this presentation is intended or should be inferred. Next slide, please. We encourage you to interact with our presenter during the webinar by using the chat feature. Please post any comments or questions you have in the chat, and I will collect your questions as we go and ask them of the presenter during the Q&A time toward the end of the presentation. During the webinar, our presenter may pose questions to you, so please use the chat feature to answer these questions. Next slide, please. Also, the MHTTC network is committed to using affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all of our activities, events, and products. Next slide, please. So now let's begin our webinar. We have with us Stuart Luther today. Stuart is the School Mental Health Coordinator for the Northeastern Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. Stuart has 10 years of experience working in youth development and advocacy. He's been with the center for the past 2 years, during which he has worked to support the region's schools in implementing evidence-based practices to support student and staff social and emotional well-being. Stewart is also a licensed counselor and works in a New Jersey high school as a school-based mental health clinician where he provides direct care to students as well as guidance for the school's mental health practices. Stewart's passion and clinical focus is providing school-based, person-centered, and trauma-informed care to historically underserved populations, including those who identify as LGBTQIA+. Now I'll turn it over to Stewart. Again, welcome everyone to our webinar.
Thank you so much, Kati. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone as well. I'm excited to be here today and share with you some information about classroom-wise well-being information and strategies for educators, as well as the new companion for classroom-wise titled Culturally Inclusiveness and Equity-wise. So just a quick rundown of what we'll be discussing today. We'll start off by an introduction to just how and why classroom-wise was developed, so you have that basis of information. We'll discuss, of course, the classroom-wise content, what is actually included in the course. We'll share some information on the additional resources included in the total classroom-wise package. And we'll discuss some implementation tools and some potential considerations that you might want to start thinking about for your schools and districts, as well as do a brief overview of the new companion course, Cultural Inclusiveness and Equity-wise. So how and why was classroom-wise created? And to kind of give you a frame of reference for that, I'd really like to start with just a brief overview of the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center network. I know that Kati just shared a little bit of information about the network at the start of the training, but just as a really quick review, we are a collaborative network that supports resource development and dissemination, training and technical assistance, and workforce development for the mental health field. The network was established in 2018 and is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. So our full center network includes 10 regional centers, a national American Indian and Alaska Native Center, a national Hispanic and Latino Center, as well as the National Coordinating Office. And what we do is use implementation science research to inform training and technical assistance that we provide. And this includes learning sessions, learning communities, online courses, face-to-face trainings, of course, when that's possible, as well as conferences. And we also develop products, including fact sheets, curricula, and tools to help implement mental health evidence-based practices, such as classroom-wise. One important thing to note is that in August of 2018, the network received some supplemental funding to address the need for further implementation of mental health services in school systems, as we see that need increasing. And through our School Mental Health Initiative, our regional and national centers are leading learning opportunities and training around numerous school mental health topic areas. And through this supplement that we received, the network has developed a really wonderful partnership with an organization called the National Center for School Mental Health. And the network first partnered with the National Center in late 2018 to develop a national resource on school mental health best practices, focused on the core features of effective school mental health systems. And together, our network and the National Center also co-led a school mental health learning opportunity in 2019 to really advance school mental health practices and policies. And this included over 200 state and district mental health and education leaders from about 38 different states. Also in 2019, our network was asked by our funder, SAMHSA, to develop a training package to assist educators in supporting the mental health of students in the classroom. And again, for this, we partnered with the National Center for School Mental Health. And we worked with the center to first conduct an environmental scan of educator mental health literacy and the resources that were already available in the field. And we also conducted a national needs assessment to really take the time to understand what educators school mental health staff, and mental health and education leaders from across the country really felt was needed for teachers to be able to better support their students in the classroom. And when we reviewed the results of the environmental scan and this needs assessment, we developed a resource called Supporting Student Mental Health, a resource to prepare educators. And this describes the role of educators in supporting student mental health and provides a list of existing resources and training that instruct educators on mental health literacy. But of course, we didn't stop there. From all of that work that we partnered with the National Center on School Mental Health with, we conducted focus groups with a diverse group of teachers in different grade levels, different ethnic backgrounds, and years of experience. We also held one-on-one interviews with mental health and education leaders to really understand the needs of the workforce. And what became very clear is that teachers understand that they're critical in supporting student well-being, and of course that they want to support student mental health for their students, but they needed additional support to really learn how to best be able to do that. And these findings, this process that I just described, really guided us in the development of a free 3-part package focused on educator mental health literacy. And that's why we're here today. And I wanted to share that with you just so that you could see kind of the intention that we took towards developing Classroom Wise. We really looked at the need of the workforce in the development, rather than just deciding on our own what we felt was important for teachers and the education workforce. So now I'll start by just sharing a video introduction to Classroom Wise. So you can just settle in and we will watch the video and we'll come back right after.
On behalf of the MHTTC Network and our partner, the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, welcome to Classroom Wise. Funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the MHTTC Network, Mental Health Technology Transfer Center Network, includes 10 regional centers, a National American Indian and Alaska Native Center, a National Hispanic and Latino Center, and our Network Coordinating Office. We provide free training and technical assistance to help disseminate and implement evidence-based mental health prevention, treatment, and recovery practices.
Through our School Mental Health Initiative, we provide technical assistance on the implementation of school mental health services to states, tribes, districts, and schools. Please be sure to connect with your MHTTC regional or national focus area center to find out about training and technical assistance in your area.
Funded by the Health Resources and Services Administration, the National Center for School Mental Health focuses on advancing research, training, policy, and practice in school mental health. We encourage you to engage with our National Center to access resources and support as you build and enhance your school mental health system. We also invite you to access our free online portal, the SHAPE system, to assess and improve your multi-tiered system of mental health and well-being support for students and school staff.
Classroom Wise, Well-Being Information and Strategies for Educators, is a 3-part package that assists educators in supporting the mental health of students in the classroom. We started by talking to educators and mental health and education leaders across the country about what information and resources would be most helpful. We also conducted an environmental scan of educator mental health literacy training and resources.
We're bringing this to you because we know that educators are critical in supporting our students' well-being and overall mental health.
I think mental health and learning about mental health is crucial for every teacher, no matter what level you teach. We all deal with it.
Mental health training is so important for educators because they're in a position to know students really well. They know their students' strengths and their weaknesses. They have an understanding about what their needs are.
The course will go through not only how you can create safe and supportive classroom environments that promote an overall sense of well-being, but also some strategies that you can use to promote social emotional competencies in your students as well as in yourself, and also how you can support students who've experienced adversities or difficulties or who might be experiencing distress. and how you as a teacher can work as part of an overall team to get students the support that they need so that they can flourish in their school environment and in their learning.
The second part of the Classroom Wise package is a series of brief, high-impact videos with teachers and students talking about bringing mental health into the classroom and demonstrating how to engage students experiencing mental distress. The videos are in the course and available on our website.
The first mission that I have is to learn and get to know all of my students individually.
What makes me feel welcome in the classroom is that they give me a big warm smile. They ask me about my weekend.
Remember, we're talking about what we did this weekend. Josiah, I see you're really eager to share with us what you did this weekend. Can you tell us what happened?
I'm able to communicate to my students that I'm a safe person just by being emotionally available.
Teachers can make students feel more comfortable about approaching them with problems if they're more chill and open to listening to the kids.
I would want a teacher to comfort me and sit down and talk to me and give me some advice when I'm upset.
The third part of the Classroom Wise package is our website, www.classroomwise.org, where you'll find access to the online course, a video library, and all of the course resources, including tip sheets, guidelines, and links to key materials.
We understand the important role educators and school personnel play in supporting student mental health. Our goal is to equip you with strategies to promote student well-being and support students experiencing adversity, distress, and mental health challenges in the classroom. We hope you'll find this course impactful in your work.
So over the years, I feel like mental health has become more relevant in not just adults, but in students as well. And if a teacher is dealing with students, you have to teach the whole child.
So therefore, for me to take the certain classes that I need to take to make sure that I'm equipped to, deal with whatever the kids are feeling, kind of help them cope, I think it is so important that we continue to learn about mental health and how it could relate to our students.
I think it's incredibly important to train teachers in mental health because it's kind of the element that unlocks teaching, because it's all built in relationships.
On behalf of the MHTTC Network and the National Center for School Mental Health, we hope you will find this online training course impactful in supporting the mental health of your students.
Okay, so welcome back. I wanted to share this video with you, one, of course, to give you a very quick rundown of the Classroom Wise program, but also I think that it's a really good example of seeing kind of the quality and the content of what you may expect when you actually take the course. As we'll talk about more later, there is an extensive video library and videos that are threaded throughout the course that include teachers and students. And this is just an example of kind of how those are presented and how well you can actually see teachers kind of implementing practices and hearing from actual students. So what is Classroom Wise? What is the nitty-gritty of it? What can you expect? So as you heard in the video, it is a 3-part training package for K-12 educators, and it offers evidence-based strategies and skills to engage and support students with mental health concerns in the classrooms. And it's about a 5 to 6 hour self-paced online course. It includes that video library that I mentioned, as well as an extensive resource collection. And then there's the final piece, that third piece, the website for educators on mental health literacy. So now to address the big question, probably what many of you are thinking about is, what content is included in the Classroom Wise package? And I'll speak a little bit further in depth about each module, but as you can see here, modules 1 through 3 are modules that focus on promoting mental health and well-being of students. And modules 4 through 6 really look at understanding and supporting students experiencing adversity and distress. So this first big bucket, modules 1 through 3, this content that is so imperative is promoting the mental health and well-being of students. And this includes creating safe and supportive classroom environments, as well as school environments, addressing stigma in the classroom, and fostering social emotional competencies. So you might notice that this aligns really well with Tier 1 strategies being utilized as a part of the multi-tiered system of support. And this is those universal supports. Our second big bucket here is modules 4 through 6. And this content really focuses on understanding and supporting students already experiencing adversity and distress. And this includes understanding the impact of trauma and adversity on learning and behavior of students, linking students to supports, and having impactful classroom strategies in your back pocket to really support these students with mental health concerns. And just note that these are the students that are at that higher tiered systems of support, that tier 2 and 3. And these likely fit into things that you might already be implementing in your school. And as you're looking at the modules here on the screen, you might already be thinking about the way these modules can link into your professional development calendar that you already have developed, and really kind of seeing how they fit into what you already have planned and maybe able to supplement that. So now jumping into a little bit more about the modules themselves. So module 1, our first module, focuses on helping students feel safe in the classroom, which we know is so imperative for students' overall well-being, and feeling and knowing that they have that safe space. We need to do this really to create those spaces for them. And we ask questions like, what do we do? What are strategies that we can utilize to make our spaces, our school spaces, feel safe to students? What guidance can we provide to help engage students in the classroom to feel both emotionally and physically safe? And after that discussion of safe classrooms and environments that you'll learn about in Module 1, Module 2 really discusses how we can bring mental health into the classroom and through that education piece. It touches on how to integrate mental health in developmentally appropriate ways. And this includes really addressing language to ensure it's inclusive and not stigmatizing of mental health. It also just kind of provides a basic mental health literacy through instruction that you're already doing, providing that mental health literacy to students to help them understand it as well in developmentally appropriate ways. Module 3 discusses social emotional learning and uses the CASTLE framework, which some of you may be familiar with. You may notice through that the way it's presented, it aligns with a lot of the SEL work you're already doing in your classroom and your schools may be implementing school or district-wide. And it provides practical strategies to use in the classroom to really support those social emotional learning core competencies. On the slide here, you'll notice in the top left corner, this is actually one of the lessons that's proposed to support one of the CASTLE core competencies, which is self-awareness, and helping students develop that. And it's important to note here that within ClassroomWise, there's no proprietary packaging that we promote. Everything in ClassroomWise is absolutely free. So while these best practices may align with other SEL practices that you're using or utilizing, these are all just the basic practices and competencies, not necessarily that proprietary packaging that you may see in other SEL programs. So Module 4 is really helping school workforce learn how to understand and support students experiencing adversity. And now that we've moved out of that Tier 1 support for modules 1 through 3, we're now considering how to identify and support students who may be at those higher tiers, that Tier 2 and Tier 3. What we're looking at in this module is really based around the typical development of a child and adolescent. What is expected of students at certain ages and stages of development? What are signs of distress and how can they impact the student? How do we recognize that distress? And what do we do when we've identified these students, such as linking them to additional supports, whether that's in the school or in the community? Now, Module 5 connects with trauma-informed practices. Many of you may already be familiar with some of these practices, as this trauma-informed care and trauma-informed practices are becoming more and more of a common topic of discussion within schools and also just generally within the community. This module provides information on trauma as well as its impacts on learning and behavior. Really kind of focusing on how it appears in the classroom. We provide an overview of adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. This is discussed as well as the impact of trauma on learning and functioning. But the module goes further than just simply, throwing that information at you about trauma and ACEs, and really provides practical ways to integrate trauma-informed care into teaching and into the classroom setting. And that's one of the great things about this program overall, is rather than just simply providing information, it also provides those strategies that you can then just turn to and use in the classroom. In our final module, Module 6, we move our lens to really help understand why some of these behaviors we're experiencing with our students may be happening. This is where we discuss, regulation and co-regulation, and again, through strategies that teachers can actually use. And I'm a huge advocate of supporting regulation and really helping students learn how to manage emotions in appropriate ways. We see the positive effects of that throughout their overall life, including in the classroom. And this module does a really wonderful job at discussing regulation, co-regulation, as well as ways that you can support students in that. So now that we've got a little bit better of a feel of the course content that's included in Classroom Wise, I do want to share what else is available beyond just the course and the modules itself, because there is quite a bit. So here you'll see an image of the Classroom Wise website, and this is going to be your hub where you're going to go to for everything related to Classroom Wise. This is where you'll go to sign up for the course, as well as locate any additional resources you may want to utilize. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see that purple button, and this is what will allow you to sign up and launch the course. Just wanted to give you a heads up that in doing that, you'll be asked to sign up for an account for the platform called Healthy Knowledge. Of course, this is totally free, and it's a very easy process. This is just where the course itself is housed. And you'll notice here, this is where you'll find other information about Classroom Wise. You'll see at the top information about the developers, which we've discussed today. This is where you'll go for the video library, as well as the resource collection and some ways to contact us if you have questions beyond today's training. So like I've mentioned, in addition to this course, we've developed a series of brief, high-impact videos that incorporate both student voice and educator strategies to give teachers ideas and examples on how to help all students feel welcome in their classroom, as well as strategies that you can actually implement in your classroom. And these videos, maybe one of my favorite components of Classroom Wise, because one, they're beautiful, gorgeous videos that are really well done, but they show students and teachers in the real world actually implementing the strategies that are discussed. And all of these videos you'll see are threaded throughout the modules, but they're also accessible as a standalone product through that Classroom Wise website. So this is really great if you're doing any professional development on a specific topic. You can go to the library, this video library, and pull out one of these videos, a couple of the videos to show at these meetings to provide just examples or context to whatever it is you're working on. And like I mentioned before, all of these are accessible outside of the modules. So you don't have to go digging within the course itself. You just have to go to the ClassroomWise website where they're all accessible. And again, the website also houses a comprehensive resource collection, and this includes tip sheets, toolkits, educator-friendly examples, and these have all been developed specifically for this project, as well as by other national experts in school mental health. They really accompany and complement the online course. While of course this is not an exhaustive resource of everything that's out there, it is a good resource for any additional in-depth information. So if there's a particular area that you're interested in, or there's a topic that you feel is especially applicable to you, your classroom, or your schools, this is a really great place to go to see what information exists. And throughout the modules, you'll also see that there will be a little icon that pops up every time that there's an additional resource available that's linked to the content that's being discussed. So what I did is when I was taking the modules, I went through and as those little icons would pop up, I check what resources they're referencing. And if there are ones that I felt really relevant to me or something that I felt I wanted to read up on later, I just saved those in that moment to my hard drive. So I knew that I would have them in one place. But of course, they are always going to be accessible on the website here. So you can always find them there. So ClassroomWise is a new resource package, and we know that those of you on the call today have deep experience with how to kind of introduce and implement new resources or initiatives in school, or at least have experienced that implementation. And so when we're thinking about what to add to our schools, because I know there's a lot of different resources out there, it's important to really make sure that any new practices or initiatives that are being considered for adoption really bring advantages or value added, relative to what currently exists on the market. So I wanted to share a little bit about that today. And ClassroomWise, was designed really to eliminate a number of the barriers that many other mental health trainings for teachers and schools face. So this includes cost. We know that many mental health literacy trainings and other programs are costly. We know that money is not always an easy thing to come by when we're working in education. And mental health knowledge, we really strongly feel should be accessible to everyone regardless of cost. And of course, ClassroomWise is totally free. We want to also consider the pace. We know that everyone learns differently, and having a self-paced option means more accessible learning and retention for a diverse audience. We also considered the duration. So this course is really efficiently packed with essential information, and the total length of the course, the time you'll spend actually taking these modules, averages around 6 hours per trainee. So averaging out around 50 to 60 minutes per module. And we kind of felt like this length of training is really ideal, especially considering the amount of information that's provided. We also considered the timing. This course is available 24/7, 365 days a year. And unlike standalone trainings, anyone can access this training at any time. We know that educators have full plates, to say the least, and we wanted this training to be as accessible as possible for anyone's schedule. And finally, we wanted to consider engagement and make sure that what we were providing is interactive, especially since it's delivered on an online platform. We love live trainings, they're great, and our priority was to make ClassroomWise as accessible to as many people as possible. And we worked hard to really make sure that we designed this course with a balance of accessibility and interactivity. So what you'll notice as you actually take the course is that there's multiple instances in each module where you'll actually engage with what's on the screen through various activities that allow you to practice and apply the knowledge that you're receiving through those modules. And while we worked really hard to kind of overcome many of the barriers to implementation that we just discussed for ClassroomWise, we know that there is a lot to consider when you're planning implementation, such as whether or not it will be suggested or required to view the modules, and really kind of thinking about how this can be implemented in your school. And we know that each school is different in their needs and their capacity to implement different programs. So to support this, the MHTTC developed a ClassroomWise implementation guide. And this is a resource that's really helpful in just kind of prompting some thinking about how you can implement this program within your school or within your district. And it includes an overview of ClassroomWise. It provides some guiding questions to help you think about how to fit ClassroomWise in your school. And it also provides some considerations and suggestions on how to implement, including roles and responsibilities of staff in this implementation, ways to have staff actually complete the modules, as well as ongoing support and how we kind of maintain what we're learning in ClassroomWise. It also discusses who is to incorporate and align ClassroomWise with, or how to incorporate and align ClassroomWise with the current initiatives and policies that you may already be working on or may have already established within your schools and districts. And perhaps one of the most important things that I can see in the implementation guide are a group of testimonials from schools who have already implemented ClassroomWise in their schools and districts. So this way you can really see how peers in the field are approaching this process as well as some of the results. So now that we've talked about the implementation guide and all that it includes, let's discuss some of these implementation strategies and some things that you might want to start thinking about as you think about how ClassroomWise fits into your school. So the first step, of course, is viewing the modules yourself so you can get a better feel of the content and the course. Then you'll want to think about, what the expectation is. I know there's always a concern about adding more, one more thing to staff's plate. And that's always important. We definitely want to consider, what we're asking our staffs to do. So we want to think, is this something that we want to be required? Do we want it to be suggested? And how do we want the staff to view the modules? Do we want them to view all of them? Do we only want them to view specific modules that address high concerns? What's important here is for you to think about what works best for you and your school. And that, of course, is something that you know better than anyone. You'll also want to think about, ongoing support. Does this get included in grade level meetings, in PD meetings? Do you need additional support and coaching? And what are some natural ways that staff can really engage with one another to share their learning and offer that kind of organic support in their learning and also the application of what's being learned in ClassroomWise? And of course, we want to think about, what's the role of everyone in the school in the implementation of ClassroomWise? We have administrative roles who may be responsible for communication about alignment with the strategic priorities of the school and the districts, thinking about what the student needs are and clearly explaining the purpose of incorporating ClassroomWise into the school and how the rest of the staff will be supported. We also have the school mental health professionals who can support the application in terms of, the discussion of key topics and problem solving, as they are seen as, the mental health experts within the school community. We also want to think about the educators, allowing them to provide feedback to school mental health professionals and administration about the application with students in their grade level, their experience with implementing strategies and anything that they notice in terms of student response and adjustments that might need to be made. And so as we're kind of now moving away from ClassroomWise, we've talked a little bit about the history of ClassroomWise and the content, what resources are available, and then on to kind of how we can start to fit this into the school. I want to introduce you to the newly released companion course to ClassroomWise titled cultural inclusiveness and equity wise. CIE wise is the acronym that we utilize for that. So CIE wise also comes with these high impact videos and resource collection, which is housed on our Classroom Wise website. And through this program, educators really learn how inequities in education impact students' mental health, and how things like implicit bias influence our perceptions and our responses to these students. And building on this foundation, educators learn culturally competent, culturally inclusive classroom strategies to really support students in the classroom, as well as students' mental health. So now I'm again going to briefly, we'll view an introductory video to cultural inclusiveness and equity wise.
Teaching cultural responsiveness is most definitely necessary. It allows each individual student to know that they matter and that they're important. It also teaches them to respect other cultures. Knowing is the most important thing. When you don't know, you can't understand.
I think it's really important to train teachers in culturally responsive teaching because not everyone is the same. People have all sorts of different backgrounds and come from all different walks of life. And in order to feel included in a classroom setting, I feel like you need to be recognized as a person. If all of those different beautiful things that make us individuals are overlooked and are not recognized, then we don't feel included. And then we don't feel like we can be vulnerable and be part of a learning environment. Building culturally responsive identity and teaching through that, I think, is important because at a middle school level, people are solidifying their identities. Oftentimes, I like to think that people see that through different examples in literature, but that doesn't always happen. So I think the best way to do that is to talk about characters that you see, what their cultural identity is, and to discuss how you resonate with that if your culture is different, to discuss what you would do if you were in their shoes, because that allows you to have a voice. But the other really great thing to do is to build natural conversations into your day and to chisel out that time that's maybe not academic. So in your homeroom, or maybe even the first 10 minutes of every class, having a question that goes around that's maybe, what did you do over the weekend? Or what's your family's favorite meal? Things like that. Allow people to speak to who their cultural identity is within themselves in a way that allows them to repeat it and have that be okay, and have it be okay to be different, and even be really cool to be different.
I am part of the equity team on my school. Not only do we talk about mental health, we also talk about how race plays into mental health and how systematic racism has shown up in our Black and brown community. For me, culturally responsive is kind of my lens that I always look through, in a sense, to make sure that not only am I identifying a behavior, but I'm trying to find the root of that behavior, wherever that goes, however that pans out.
That's interesting. Okay, so that was a brief introduction to CIE wise, and now let's kind of jump into a little bit about what's included in those modules in this course program. So module 1 will really dig into understanding how social injustices impact student mental health. We'll describe the historical context of racism in the US education system, the benefits of cultural inclusivity on student mental health, as well as, how these social injustices result in those inequities within schools and how they impact students' mental health. Module 2 really focuses on understanding how educator bias impacts student mental health. We'll learn about implicit bias, how it manifests, of course, what it is, and how it influences the perceptions of students, our perceptions of students, and how it can also influence our responses to students' mental health as well as their academic needs. In module 3, we will dive into engaging in culturally inclusive action to promote student mental health. And this is going to really start to provide those practical strategies that you can start to implement. And we describe, why educator self-reflection about bias is important, some ways that you can do that, discussing culturally inclusive strategies to engage students in the classroom, and ways to really promote that feeling of safety through this culturally inclusive lens, as well as designing a classroom that is equitable and inclusive. And finally, the last module for this 4-part program is supporting students experiencing distress from a culturally inclusive and equity lens. And through this module, you'll really receive some guidance on how student behavior is connected to their emotions as well as their cultural backgrounds, how to utilize a strength-based approach to connect not only with the students, but also with families, and connecting them to culturally responsive mental health services, which we know is extremely important in outcomes. You'll also receive some guidance on how to partner with clinicians and really to promote student wellness and equitable supports in the classroom. And then this would wrap up the CIE-wise program. Different from Classroom-wise, which is 6 modules. This is shorter with only the 4 modules. And I know you've already seen this slide before, but I just wanted to bring it up again because this is also where you're going to find all of the content for CIE-wise. And like I mentioned previously, and also was detailed in the video I shared, this includes that standalone video library that can be used as in PD or however you feel that you may be able to use those individual videos that are also kind of presented throughout the modules themselves. It also includes an extensive collection of resources to promote that further learning. And this does start to wrap up, the information that I'll provide today about Classroom-wise and CIE-wise, but I do want to make sure that I share with you a technical assistance opportunity that our National Coordinating Office is presenting for this school year. And we're inviting 20 schools and school districts across the US to really help us understand what types of assistance they need to help schools adopt Classroom-wise. How many school personnel are completing the online course, how they're accessing it, what can we do to help make this even more friendly to implementation in your schools. And as a part of that TA, a small leadership team from each school and district will receive at no cost, an orientation webinar, somewhat similar to this, a written guide about Classroom-wise. Notably, they'll also receive that individual facilitation meeting with Classroom-wise developers who are national school and mental health experts, as well as an invitation to participate in a community of practice with the other schools that are participating in the technical assistance opportunity. So if you feel that after today that Classroom-wise is something that you're interested in and you would like some support in implementing it in your school, this is a really great opportunity to have that and be supported in the work that you're doing. You'll see that there's the bit.ly link here that you can use to access the application. There is an application for this technical assistance opportunity, so you'll just have to get with whatever school leadership would be responsible for that and fill out that application. You'll also see that there's the QR code there, and these link to there's more information about the opportunity and of course the application as well. So now, as we start to wrap up, I wanted to move into our question and answer portion and allow some time to provide some responses to some things that you might be asking yourself right now. And I do have one question already queued up, which is, do schools need to sign up for Classroom-wise, the program itself, or can I take it on my own? So absolutely. This program is open to any individual that would like to participate and learn from Classroom-wise. You do not have to have your school sign up. You don't have to have them implementing it within your school for you to take it. We encourage, if it's not something that your school is implementing and you are wanting to learn about the practices that we discussed today, that you can take that time on your own to learn these practices, learn these strategies, and utilize the classroom-wise package on your own. So that's something that's absolutely okay and absolutely encouraged. Yeah, I have another question about the PowerPoint slides, and all of the slides that were presented today, as well as the recording for today, will be sent out to everyone who participated or who was signed up for today's training, and that should be sent to the email with which you registered within the week. So about 7 days, you'll have received that.
Thank you, Stuart, for providing us with wealth of knowledge on classroom-wise and cultural inclusiveness module. Are there any other questions? You're welcome to share them in the chat box or in the Q&A pod. I have shared in the chat box the link to ClassroomWise. It's www.classroomwise.org. You will receive the links as well to the recording, the link to the slides, which will be posted on our website in our follow-up email.
Kati, can we also include a link to the technical assistance opportunity?
Absolutely. Yes. All of those links will be included in the follow-up email.
So I'll just wrap up and pass it back off to Kati and just say thank you to everyone for being here today and spending this time with me as I share information about ClassroomWise and CIE-wise. And also a huge thank you for and heartfelt appreciation to you and all kind of school mental health professionals and school personnel, for dedicating your time to caring for our children and taking the time to learn about ways that you can better care for them. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stuart. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, we are SAMHSA funded. As part of receiving this funding, we are required to submit data to the quality of this event. So please take a moment to either scan the QR code or you may complete the evaluation by clicking on the link that I will provide in the chat box. Well, next slide, please. As we mentioned before, a certificate of completion will be automatically emailed to all of today's participants within 7 days of this webinar broadcast. It will be emailed to the email address with which you registered with. And we welcome you to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. The handles are on the screen, and you can remain informed on our upcoming activities. So that wraps up today's webinar. Thank you, Stuart, for providing us with an overview of ClassroomWise and the CIE module. And we thank you for joining us this morning. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Stuart or myself. Stuart, if you want to put your email in the chat, I'll put mine in case you have any follow-up questions. Again, on behalf of the Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, we thank you for your participation. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.